and gentlemen, you are listening to Odd Dad Out.
It's a good show, everybody.
On this special episode, Adam talks about jury duty and getting molested by Sasquatch. And now, it's your host. No, he's not Vinnie Vincent. It's Adam Higgins.
Beginning Odd Dad Out podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Odd Dad Out podcast, where normal is not my specialty. I am your host, as you heard, the often conflicted Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out. And this is the show where I share my twisted little stories of whatever the hell's going on. I make fun of some weird new stuff, and I wrap it all up with a podcast recommendation that I think you should check out, because I'm just a giving person. I guess first things first, I said thank you to Mike Jolitz from the Mike Jolitz Show, my brother in the Surprise Motherfucker Network. Yeah, we have the best name, don't we? But yeah, that's what I get for asking. Or I shouldn't say asking, for letting my friends do the intro. That's what you get. You get Sasquatch molestation. But if you want to check out, if you're listening to me, you've probably heard of Mike Jolitz. I've run his promos all the time. Anyway, but you can check him out at surprisemeffers.weebly.com. And you'll find us all there. You'll find this show. You'll find Mike Jolitz. You'll find the Couch Potato Files, which are actually going to be renamed. Chris the Mole Man is rebranding as The Mole Man Show, actually beginning this week, I believe. So it's basically a lot of the same stuff, but it's gonna be, I think he said that he felt like the name implied that it was an entertainment show. That he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be talking about TV. No, not that sort of shit. It's more of a, tinfoil hat couch potatoes. So, but all that aside, he was right about one thing. I had jury duty last week. And of course, I mean, if you're listening to me now, you probably were listening to me last week. And if you weren't, thank you for joining me this week. I appreciate your ears. You have nice ears. Did anybody ever tell you that? Anyway. I'm tired. Can you tell I'm tired? Anyway, yeah, I had jury duty last week, and as much as I had hoped, I didn't get called off. And it turns out that when you have jury duty in kind of the suburbs, like, and it wasn't like I said before, it wasn't, big, like go into Phoenix Central and go to downtown. It was the local city court. And so I figured, this is going to be like a traffic ticket. Somebody's contesting a traffic ticket or something. It turned out to be a DUI, which out here is pretty much the biggest thing you're probably going to get, because it's a small, quiet community. And for the most part, the cops have little else to do but get you for traffic violations. I mean, granted, DUI is a big traffic violation. It's a big thing. But yeah, that's pretty much what it amounted to. What surprised me was there were 24, and I know there were 24 because she kept saying, wow, there's only 24 people. There were only 24 people that actually got called, that were actually there. And it was only supposed to be a 7-person jury, which is weird. I didn't know that juries were of different sizes. You always, I guess when you see stuff on TV and all that, you only hear of those like murder trials where it's always 12 people, which I've always had a problem with the fact that it's 12. Like, why is it 12? Why not an odd number so that you can't have a split, like, hung jury? Granted, in, like, murder trials and stuff, it has to be unanimous. But that's a whole other thing. But anyway, it was a 7-person jury. There were 24 people there. And, yeah, it was one of those things. It was a lot longer than expected. And we went, like, when I did jury duty the first time through, they got like the whole group of us and all like 50 of us that were in there and were basically going through all the questions for everybody all at once with the whole group in the room. So, you'd stand, get your number, stand up, answer the questions. They'd give you your follow-up questions and sit, okay, next person. And if they had any other questions later, and they'd call you and all that, whatever. Well, the way they did this is they had everybody go in, they'd read from their little card and ask, any if they needed clarification from any of your little predisposed card questions and your number and whatnot. And then they basically sent us all back to the little jury room, then called everybody individually, all 24 of us, for a second round of questions. Which meant that not only did we all have to keep coming and going and, oh, you're next, it took hours. And I told him when I finally got up, because I was number 13 of 24, so I'm dead center in the pack. So I'm waiting for all these other people to go before I can even say, hey, yeah, I've got kids and a family and all this stuff, and it's kind of a financial hardship for me to be here, even right now. And they actually were under, I told them that I work nights, my wife works days, she's taking time off so that I can be here. If I have to continue being here, I'm losing work, she's losing work. And I was and they actually thought that I was going to be going to work that night, and I was expected to be working through the trial. I was no, because I should be asleep right now. But yeah, it was just one of those things. But even after I go up and I say all my stuff, I all rest of the day, because guess what? I was there a fucking day. I had to, I sat there and was waiting. And in the little jury room, they had, the little local, I wouldn't even say public access. It's the city's, news channel. It was Surprise TV, Channel 11 or whatever the hell it is. Where it's city government stuff and, Department of Transportation and Fish and Game and all that sort of stuff. But we're watching all this, and we've memorized all of these ads and all of the city public works projects things. And it was funny because there's the lady who's basically kind of in charge, and the manager of the kind of the jury. It's she's kind of the one that directs us and controls all of us. And she's sitting there, and she starts at the beginning of the day, and she's yeah, they'll probably get through all the questions and break for lunch around noon, and then come back, and they'll probably either dismiss you as you go, or they'll call everybody back and dismiss everybody at once, or as soon as they've got the 7 jurors they need, they'll just say, okay, we're done, rest of you can go home. And then we get to about 11:30. She's oh yeah, they should be breaking for lunch soon. And then we get to about 12:30. And she's got assistants inside the courtroom. We're over in the jury room, and she's texting back and forth between her and her assistants. And even they're when are we going to lunch? 1 o'clock rolls around. When are we going to lunch? And a handful of people have been dismissed, but we're all just sitting there I thought we were going to lunch. And she's just getting more and more hangry. And at one point she even tells them, send the judge a note telling her that the jurors are asking when we're breaking for lunch. They worked through all 24 possible jurors before, there were a handful of people, I think, that were just outright dismissed for 1 or 2 reasons. They'd get a call into the room and okay, you, number 7, just throwing numbers out there. You, number 7, you're dismissed. Okay. But everybody was laughing because of the fact that we'd all basically were under the impression we were going to be taking lunch a couple hours ago, or we're the gag became we're not breaking for lunch, we're breaking for dinner. But yeah, it was long and tedious. But I'm sitting there, and they basically got to after the last person came back. And then they get the phone call, and then they dismissed half of us. I'm and I finally got dismissed. But up to that point, I was convinced, because short of the I've got kids argument, and I've got to be home with my kids, and my wife isn't working, and I'm not working because of jury duty stuff, it really kind of got the impression they liked me. I'm like, fuck. And I'm sitting there in the little jury room, like texting my wife saying, I think I'm going to get picked. I think I'm going to get picked. Shit. I think I'm going to get picked. To the point where she went ahead and called out of work for the next day because it was genuinely looking like I was going to get picked. And then, like, there were a couple of people that got dismissed that were either behind me in line. So, like, I'm number 13. Well, there are people like number 15 got dismissed. I was like, well, shit, if they dismissed 15 and they didn't dismiss me yet, then obviously I'm in the thing. And there was another guy that actually had called his wife for the same exact reason. He was like, I think I'm getting picked. They've already dismissed somebody who was further back from me, so I'm pretty sure I'm getting picked. No, they dismissed me, but they didn't dismiss me until about 2:30. At which point, like, my wife was, like, 20 minutes ago called and got cleared by her boss to have Friday off of work. And I'm like, hey, if I get dismissed, even if it's, like, late, can you call so you don't have to be off tomorrow so you don't lose the day? You know, 'cause that kind of sucks. Unnecessarily losing a day of work. And of course, like, no, she's not going to call. It's like, she'd much rather stay home than go to work. But I'm sorry, I'm a logical person. And I say, money. But yeah, that kind of sucks. But yeah, that was such a pain in the ass. And it was, I feel bad for the court lady, and I forget her name. Not that I would really necessarily give it here, because probably some sort of legal ramifications for that. I feel bad for her, though. She was stuck there that whole time. She was like, I'm never again going to tell anybody what could happen, because, like, we should have taken lunch. Like, they've never done this. And we were in there from 8 in the morning until about 2:30. And I'm assuming they stopped they took a break to eat or whatever after me and the rest of that group, because there were a bunch of us at that point. They got dismissed, but shit, they ate until 2:30. They did not break. And that's kind of rough. Last time it was like a hard line, basically. The courthouse shut down at noon. It's like the county courthouse, when I had jury the first time, 12 o'clock rolled around. It was like the Flintstones. Everything shut down. It was a hard time. Like, nope, all the judges, all the lawyers, everybody, everything shut down at noon. And then you were expected to be back at 1 o'clock. But then, like, we're sitting outside because basically everybody, even the judges, everybody took their break at from 12 to 1. And then at 1 o'clock, then they come back and they do their little, meetings and whatnot. So we're standing outside the courtroom for like 30 minutes while they're doing their meetings because, hey, when they're on lunch, they're on lunch. But yeah, we didn't get fucking lunch. We had donuts and coffee. I had a donut because I wasn't about to sit there and drink, hours and hours and hours old Dunkin' Donuts coffee from a box and stale donuts that have been there since I don't know when. And like, so it's like, yeah, I was kind of half starving, but I'd rather do that than be wandering around the courthouse looking for the bathroom or whatever, or miss the call when they dismiss me. I'm like, no. But I really wish I'd taken there are people there that brought like 3 or 4 books. I'm like, how the fuck how fast do you read? You brought a damn encyclopedia. Why'd you bring the entire Harry Potter series? It's like, it's city court. It can't be that long. How fast do you read? But I should have taken Forrest Gump with me, and I regret not taking it because I'm sitting there and I'm going through news stuff and reading crap and killing my phone battery. Instead of, I could have been sitting there reading a book. But yeah, that was by Thursday. We're like, what? There's more? Yeah, because the Sasquatch bit that he alluded to, not so much a Sasquatch bit as a stuck in the snow bit. I had to work out of town. I had to go up north into Prescott, Arizona, or if you're reading it, Prescott. But yeah, I had work up there this weekend, and we got hit with a snowstorm. We had 7 buildings we had to go do. And even my boss was like, yeah, I know it's going to be late when you're up there. If you can't get them all done, that's no big deal. We're going back up that way next weekend. We can finish them then. Just try and get as much as you can. We get 2. We get to the second building, and then like we get inside. Second, we're in there. The snow starts coming down. And we look up, and it's been like 5 minutes, and the van is covered in snow. And it's like you can't even read the lettering on the side anymore. The wheel wells are filling up, and like, shit. And I don't have a problem necessarily with snow. I don't hate the snow. But Prescott, Arizona, if you're not familiar with it, is all up and down hills and mountains, and there's not a flat piece of ground in that place. So when you're dealing with snow and ice, hills are not your best friend. So I got scared. I got nervous because our work vans aren't equipped for that. We're just like, and I know that all-terrain tires are more of ground and maybe some mud and some rain, not snow. Specifically not snow. Snow tires are a whole different thing. And so I'm sitting here thinking, shit, the roads are going to start icing up. We need to get the fuck out of here. Like, because, and the snow, it started getting pretty heavy for a bit. And I was getting worried because the more the snow comes down, then the more, the roads will start getting icy. And like, I'm confident in my driving ability. But I've only driven in snow one other time in my life, and it was when I was 18, when it was Christmas Day of 2003, when there's the big storm. It snowed on Christmas in Corpus Christi, Texas. And that was the first and only other time that I ever had to drive in active snow. And yeah, I was like fishtailing our Durango in a parking lot. So yeah, my work van on hills in the snow, I wasn't so confident in. And I was like, I am driving slow. Like, we're getting out of here. We are driving super slow. And what took us an hour to get there, it took us almost 2 hours to get back because we're doing like 25, 35 miles an hour with lots of fresh snow on the road. And it's no, through the hills and all that crap. But it's supposed to be like a 65, 70 mile an hour zone, and we're doing like 35 miles an hour. And there was another car in front of us. I'm like, nope, I'll let you set the pace, dude. It's like, I'm not about to try and pass you. And it's a pretty wide road. But we were basically stuck inside the very narrow space of one lane. And of course, we passed the plow. The plow was coming up like one of the side roads. I'm like, oh, great. The plow's behind us. Wonderful. So we don't even get a nice clean plowed road that we can drive on that's easy. I'm like, nope, we gotta drive on the snow all the way back. And it's like one of those where you just, I don't like snow. Snow is fun and all. Driving in snow, not so fun. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm sorry. That was mildly nerve-wracking. But I feel bad because where we were trying to do, all the buildings, but 4 or 5 at least, we did 2. And I feel bad because the guys who are going up this weekend are now going to have, I think they would have had 7 to do themselves, and now they've got 12. So I feel really bad for them. But I expected it was going to be me, but it's not. And I got other stuff I'm doing this weekend. But oh man, I'm not a fan of driving in snow. And it's beautiful up there. It was really nice, but man, it was coming down, and I just no. Snow is not my friend. I'm sorry. Again, I've said it before. I live in the desert for a reason. I enjoy living on the surface of the sun. Just about every other part of Arizona, minus the valley where Phoenix sits, gets snow, oddly enough. But it's no. I live in the valley. I live in the desert part on purpose. I'm sorry. I'm a shitty snow person. And I'm sure there are people out there, like all you that live up in the Northeast who are getting snow and are like, man, like what a wuss, you can't drive in snow. No, I can't fucking drive in snow. I grew up in the fucking desert. Like, we got out of that damn building and it's 32 degrees and there's like an inch of snow on the ground, and I'm sitting here thinking, shit, is this van even like equipped at this point to handle the cold enough to turn over? I don't know. I don't know how these things go. I was like, I know that if it's damn cold out, your car might not start. And it's like, yeah, it was like 2 hours in that cold, so it probably wasn't that big a deal. But still, these are the things my paranoid logical mind goes through. But yeah, no, winter's not fun. I don't like winter. Get back to the valley where it's, 45 degrees. We're still, it's been like in the 70s during the day. Meanwhile, it's like, this whole winter storm and all this snow and everything that hit what they call it above the rim. But if you get out of the valley, you're on the other side of the mountains where there's winter and it's snowing and it's packed and all this stuff up there, and everyone's going up and going out to Snow Bowl and going up to Flagstaff and all these places where there's lots of snow to go have fun in the snow. Great. You get into the valley and it's like 70 degrees. I'll stay in the 70 degrees. It's fine. That's my happy winter comfort zone. We normally get winter, kind of. It doesn't normally snow down here, but we normally get kind of winter. This year, nope. Again, I think I've said it before. I fear for the summer coming up, because when we've had 70-degree winters, usually means 120-degree summers. But I've rambled on. I went on jury duty way longer than I expected to, but let's take a break from my rambling, listen to some podcast promos, and I will be right back with the news.
What is the Podern Family?
This is Dave from the Parlapod podcast.
This is Eric Mocker from the Mockers podcast.
This is Adam from Everyone Has a Podcast.
This is Matthew McDonough from the Passersby podcast.
Hi, I'm Gareth.
I'm Bix.
And we're from the Gareth's Random Rambling podcast.
We're Josh and David from the Scotch and Flicks podcast.
Hey, this is Rick from Ice and the Face.
This is Nick from the Epic Film Guys podcast.
Hey, this is Shane.
That's not Shane. That's a robot set by the government.
And that's Kenny from
I'm
Now
a robot too.
From Now That I'm Older.
More like Now That I'm Robot.
This is Knock from the Geek Yogurt podcast.
Hi, this is Leo.
This is Kitty.
This is Midgie.
Fez here.
Cobra here.
And we're from the Afterburn 739 podcast.
I'm James Hatton.
I'm Podcast Rob from the Something Something cast.
This is Cyanide from the Little Geek Lost podcast.
This is Paul from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews podcast.
This is Greg from the Sports Stance podcast.
Hey, this is Bro from the World of Row podcast.
This is Turbo from the Turbo Cast.
Hey guys, this is Mike from the Mike Jolett Show.
Woo! Hey guys, it's Rad Dad Chad,
J Mills, and Lil Man
from the Full of Fiber podcast.
This is Jason from the 3 Is Comedy podcast.
This is Matt Pierce from the Crossover podcast.
Hey y'all, it's Juliette Miranda from the Unwritable Rant podcast.
This is Michael Vasquez of the No Soundbites Allowed podcast.
This is Daniel from the Toe on the Trigger podcast.
This is Octopus Caveman.
And this is the Green Korean
from the Dave podcast.
This is Gareth from the Open All Powers podcast.
This is Jeff with the Kung Fu Drive-In podcast.
We are you, podcasters coming together in a community to help one another grow. So follow us on Twitter at Podern Family and use the hashtag Podern Family in your tweets and retweet other people who do the same. Podern Family, where great podcasts come home.
Hey, this is Adam Nutter.
And this is Greg Trout. Come check out our podcast, Nerds with Words.
Adam and I talk about pop culture, comedy, comic books, movies, conspiracies. We're both comedians and we might make you laugh. Every week we welcome a guest from the entire spectrum of pop culture and science and comedy. You can follow us on Twitter at NerdsWithWords1.
Bullshit from the news.
All right, let's get started. Quick reminder, you can get the links to all of these news stories and pictures on some of them and whatnot at the show notes at odddadout.blogspot.com. Starting them off this week, a woman is assaulted in a nightclub. Goes to the hospital. Turns out the doctor there is the guy who assaulted her and then proceeds to beat her up again. So this is I can't pronounce, a Russian kind of Lakushia? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's Russian. It's in Russia. I'm just going to say it's in Russia. So yeah, chick goes, her and her friends are hanging out at a club, or as they say, a local disco. Because I guess in Russia they still have discotheque. I don't know. But, yeah, so she ends up getting into, a nightclub fight, I guess. And she goes to the hospital because she wants to, like, hey, here, I got beat up in a nightclub. She goes to the hospital to get, basically, so they can document her injuries so she can go to the police and press charges. She gets to the hospital. The guy who's the doctor on call is the guy who beat her up. At least who she claims beat her up. And they've got video of all of this too, where this guy basically, as he's sitting there and she's videoing, is like, this is the guy who beat me up. And he's like, I've got witnesses who'll say you started the fight and you did this first and you assaulted me first. Meanwhile, he's smashing her hands on the desk and then eventually gets up and tries to come at her, and he gets stopped by one of the nurses and all this stuff before he can really do anything else. And again, this is all on video. Like, dude, you can't sit there and claim you didn't do shit when you're a doctor and you're sitting there beating up this woman and you're trying to come at her in the doctor's office, in the hospital. What the hell, dude? And of course, he got fired. He claims that in the nightclub incident that her friends and her attacked his friend and he just jumped in to defend his friend and all this stuff, and it just got blown way out of proportion. That doesn't give you a right to attack this woman in the hospital. Really. You're a doctor. He should have been more responsible in the nightclub, but he definitely should have been a hell of a lot more responsible when you're on the clock in the hospital. You're not supposed to assault your patients, you dumb shit. But yeah, he got fired and he's all pissed because he's saying, oh, this video ruined my life and blah, blah. I was like, no, you dumbass, assaulting your patients ruined your life. Because really, it doesn't matter whether or not he assaulted her in a nightclub. He assaulted her in a doctor's office. So, yeah, dumbass. God. I can't. With all the crazy shit going on in the world, it doesn't surprise me that something like this would happen, but still, damn. Alright. I was torn on whether or not to cover this one. My wife sent me this one. But it's one of those sort of things. Alright, so, man ruptures his throat by holding in a strong sneeze. And this is one of those weird sort of, this is why your, mom always says, don't hold it in, So a 34-year-old British man ruptured his throat by suppressing a particularly powerful sneeze. So yeah, I guess for whatever reason, this guy was like, whatever the situation was that this guy was in where he had to absolutely, I can't sneeze right now. Not only did he, hold in his sneeze, but he pinched his nose closed too. And anybody who's ever held their breath and all that, pinching your nose and you feel your eyes bug out and that sort of shit. Well, imagine the force, like a really chunky, I say chunky is not the best word for it, a really powerful sneeze. I don't like keep using powerful. It's the only word I got. You got a really strong sneeze coming and you pinch your nose and you hold it. Well, as they put it, it backfired into his throat and perforated his pharynx. Pharynx. I get it. It's the part of your throat right above the larynx and the esophagus. So I guess it's like right somewhere in your upper chin. Like, I don't know. It seems like it's that point in your neck where shit all connects together, where your head meets neck. I don't know. I don't know biology that well. I really should. My mom and my stepmom both work in hospitals. I should know biology better than this. But anyway, this guy basically had a hole in his throat. And it's like he didn't even know what was going on at first. But he said that his voice had changed and his throat hurt whenever he swallowed. So honestly, his neck began to swell up. And whenever he moved his head, he experienced unsettling sensation of popping and cracking. Now, if you start hearing cracking, fuck that. Yeah, so, they x-rays and they find out. It's like, oh yeah, you've got a hole in your throat, dumbass. What the fuck did you do? But I think it's the most amazing thing that's just from a sneeze. I can see trying to like hide a sneeze and, it's like, oh, you're in a certain environment. You don't want to make any noise. But you know what? Unless there's like a psycho murderer coming at you and he's going to cut your head off if you make a sound, fucking sneeze. Because apparently this can happen. Apparently you can rupture your throat. And for what the fuck? Don't pinch your nose. I was like, yeah, hold in a sneeze. And I understand. I've held in sneezes that hurt. Because sometimes you hold in a sneeze because you don't want to sneeze, fine, whatever. But pinching your nose is just dumb because if you gotta have, there's a lot of air, there's a lot of pressure there, it's gotta go somewhere. And in this case, it's going to blow out your throat and you're gonna have fucking surgery and yeah. And the air bubbles were making their way into the muscles in his chest. This is subcutaneous emphysema. And I can't pronounce all these fancy ass words. But basically, it was getting air. The air is supposed to go through your nose and your mouth into your lungs. It was going through his nose and his mouth into his rib cage and muscle area, not into his lungs. So yeah, no, don't hold your sneezes, folks. You have crazy shit happen. All right. Speaking of people doing stupid shit, aren't I always? That always seems to be what the case is around here. Experienced ultra-marathon runner, and I know a marathon is like 28.3 or 28.6 miles? Long ass fucking way. Ultra marathons are just like those crazy, stupid, like, oh, you're running for 48 hours at a time kind of shit. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, ultra marathon runner stripped of his titles after investigation proves he won races by hiding in porta potties. Now this is kind of crazy. And I actually found out he got busted here in Phoenix of all places. So this guy, Kelly Agnew, they took all his titles away. Basically, they found out that instead of, running the ultra marathons, he would like run so far, he'd like run until he was out of view of the line, basically. And he'd like duck around a corner or something, hide in a porta potty for a bit, and then come out on the backside. So basically, like, he'd duck around the block and then hide in one of the porta potties at the start line and then jump out and cross the line. Like, look, I won. What was I'm trying to think. And it was done in a movie too, something like that. Where they like, they took a truck or some shit like that. But it was one of those things where they kind of were like, man, this guy is winning by a lot. And he said, I guess it's like one of those kind of where you're like running in a loop and going over and over and over and over again. And how many laps can you run in whatever amount of time? And he would go and he'd run, and instead of running the whole way around, he was basically cutting it in half, hide for a few minutes, come across the line. Oh, here's my lap. Check. And then run around, do it again. Check. Run, do it again. Nobody's seeing him pass them. And eventually they got suspicious, and they had somebody basically tail him the whole time. And they see him pull that off, and they're like, not only, and they just flat out, it's like they catch him like ducking in there, and then when they see him come out, and he gets to the line, and they're like, oh, you're done. They take his number from him. It's like, you're disqualified. Oh, and we're going to notify the organization. We're stripping you of all your titles. And yeah, it's an interesting way, but what does it benefit him to cheat in these? I mean, is he making a crap ton of money in the ultra marathon circuit? And really, I just don't get it. It's notoriety maybe, but how much is it really benefiting this guy to be cheating in these ultra marathons? Again, it's a super niche sport. It's not like it's the Boston Marathon or the New York Marathon or the LA Marathon. These big city, high publicity marathons where it's basically everybody against like 3 guys from Kenya. It's not like those. And I know they're yes, I realize that's a stereotype, but that's basically how those things go. But I know, like, the comedian Eddie Izzard I forget exactly, I think it was a cancer thing, and I'm forgetting now, and I hate that I'm forgetting it now. He did a marathon a day for like 45 days or something like that. And again, I could totally be wrong. I hate that I can't remember it because it was like something really meaningful, and I feel like a schmuck for forgetting. But he ran a marathon a day for this period, and I think, hell, it may have even been like something in South Africa. I think, yeah, maybe there's something. I'm stupid, but there was like a significance to the number of marathons he ran, but it was like some 1,400 miles or some crazy shit by the end of it. And I know there was one point where he had to stop and skipped a day because like he got sick or something happened, but he skipped a day. And so the next day he had to do 2 marathons, but it was like every day, another marathon, every day, another marathon, another marathon, another marathon. It's like, fuck that. It's basically, that's Forrest Gump shit right there. You're just running. And I've heard of like people that run marathons where they get sick at the end. That like you don't want to be there at the finish line of a marathon because you get these guys, they've been running for so long, their bodies are just dying and they're just throwing up from the strain on their bodies. So I don't even want to imagine with these ultra marathons, like I'm going to run for 48 hours straight and not die. I see cheating for that reason, the not wanting to die running an ultra marathon. But other than that, no, I don't get it. All right, moving on. And I had to go with this one just because I have a question about this. I'm just going to read the headline straight up. Man arrested for having, quote, unnatural sex with 3 cows. Just going to let you sit with that one for a second. Unnatural sex with 3 cows. What would be natural sex with 3 cows? Because I'm just going to say I don't think there's any point where a person having sex with a cow is natural. So it's a little, what's the word, redundant, superfluous, big words, unnecessary, stupid. Yeah, you could just say man arrested for having sex with cows. Done. But yeah, that's what seems to have happened. one of the cows was owned by local, this is in India, by the way. But one of the cows was owned by the local milkman and died the next day. Yeah, so this guy's accused of having sex with the animal some point between Sunday night and Monday morning. And yeah, I mean, he worked with the guy. That's just, yeah. Why? I mean, I guess, you know, people have things, or, you know, and I hate to throw any sort of stereotypes or whatever, but yeah, some people have weird things and weird fetishes, and animals are not. I don't get that. I don't get it. For all of the jokes in the world that have been made about people having sex with animals, I don't understand it. It's just not a thing that I have any grasp of. So, yeah, again, my biggest question is the phrasing of the headline. That's the part that got me. It's like, unnatural sex with cows. I was like, oh, well, you know, it could have been natural sex with cows. Like, is he a cow? No. It's unnatural sex with a cow. That's just it. What the fuck? And apparently, like, he got busted now, but they went after him because apparently he had a record of doing this. No, why the fuck is this guy working at a dairy? He has a history of having sex with cows. The only reason I'd get him now is because one of them died. So, yeah. No. Ah, fuck. Gross. Goddamn. I realize it's the headline is what got me. It's much less about the story, because otherwise it's just, And I'm not even going to apologize to anybody out there who likes to have sex with cows, because, Well, all of those dumb fucking people and weird shit going on. Cow fucker. I'm hard pressed to find a not obvious winner this week. So I'm cheaping out. I'm taking the easy way out this week. This week's Jackass of the Week goes to the Tide Pod Challenge. Because who the fuck came up with this bullshit? Now, I saw a thing that basically amounted to, it started as an internet meme and a gag that people were making, apparently it was a response to the ads where there's, talking about, making them safer and the safety locks so kids don't eat them and all that shit. And so people were making joke pictures of a plate of pasta with Tide Pods on them. It's like, yeah, cause you're going to eat these. And then a bunch of stupid fucking people started eating them. They started putting them in their mouths. And I don't know. I've never seen any of these videos because I've mentioned before, I don't watch these stupid YouTube things. These challenges and all this, I read about them. I don't fucking watch the videos because A, I'm not the audience for this. And B, I'm not about to support these people by clicking on their stupid shit. But what the fuck compels you? There's a fucking warning on the box that tells you, and they've said multiple times when these things first came out, they had a problem with the packaging and because they're brightly colored and kids, little kids, 3 and 4 year olds seeing it looks like a gummy because they're brightly colored and squishy. Oh, it's a gummy, and eating the fucking things or trying to eat the things and getting sick. Because the little kids can't put them all the way in their mouth, but they lick the thing, they get sick, blah, blah, blah. And it's like ultra concentrated detergent. And so a bunch of, so they ran a bunch of ads. Hey, we've improved the safety of our packages and make sure you keep them away from children. Big ass labels on the packages. Please keep away from children. Dangerous. Poisonous. All that. If somebody consumes this, contact poison control immediately. All these big ass poison warnings all over these containers. And because YouTube people are stupid, saying it, fucking YouTube people are stupid and do stupid shit because they want to get famous and they want to get clicks. We've been through this with Logan Paul. They're willing to stick a poisonous chunk of soap in their mouth to get clicks on their fucking channel because they think it's funny. Well, having to have your stomach pumped and getting blinded and possibly paralyzed, because guess what? These are all possible side effects of the ultra concentrated detergents that are in Tide Pods, and that's from them. You can, like, any amount of moisture makes the little protective pouchy thing break down, which is poisonous in and of itself. Then the soap and all the little other the brightly colored mixtures of the different soaps and things that are in it are all fucking toxic. You're not supposed to eat soap, especially ultra concentrated detergents. It's not like it's natural soap. This is not Fight Club soap made from lye and human fat. This is not something, theoretically, that stuff's edible. This is not. But a bunch of stupid fucking people, thousands of stupid fucking people, are going around sticking fucking soap in their mouth, thinking it's goddamn funny. Meanwhile, they're in the hospital. Why? Because they're fucking stupid. Because you don't eat soap, you dumb shit. And people are getting hospitalized left and right. And it's the problem isn't even the kids. The problem is the teenagers. These are like, upper teenagers, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, stupid fucking kids doing stupid shit, once again, to get YouTube famous. All I can say is at least this is happening post Logan Paul stupid bullshit, so YouTube is on their toes, and they went through and made it a point. It's like, we are going to remove all Tide Pod fucking challenge videos. Why? Because it's stupid. And it's dangerous, and these people do have influence over it. It's like people see, oh, this guy eating a Tide Pod is getting thousands of clicks. I'm going to do that and get thousands of clicks, and I'm going to get, all this money and all this shit to my channel. Like, yeah, it's going to be great. Like, you also didn't see the thousands of dollars of medical bills this fucking kid got because he has to get his stomach pumped and had to spend 3 days in the hospital from fucking toxic exposure to bullshit because he was a dumb fuck eating goddamn fucking soap. Dumb fucks. I gotta stop covering YouTube shit. I really do. That's like the most ragey I get is stupid YouTube shit. Maybe it's because I hate stupid YouTubers. That's it. That's really it. But I think everybody, much like the Logan Paul thing, I think everybody can collectively agree. And I hope this shit's over soon. And you don't have to talk about it. Granted, there'll be another one coming up. But I think everybody can agree. Anybody involved in the Tide Pod Challenge is a jackass. But I'm going to take my last quick break, play you a couple more promos, and be right back with this week's recommended listening feature, I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam.
You're listening to us. Red Face.
What's up, guys? This is Epic Film Guy Nick here, and I just want to take a few moments to tell you about an excellent podcast that I personally listen to called Ice and the Face. All right, now if you're a fan of dystopian and even nihilistic comedy, this is the show for you. Rick and Sarah take the most ridiculous news items in the world every single week, and they just tear these stories down, all while having a great laugh. They're usually joined by guests who jump right in on the fun, and it's just a great time. They just launched a Patreon over at patreon.com/iceintheface, so you can also support them. But if you're not listening to this show, what you need to do is go to their website at iceintheface.com or jump over on your favorite podcasting app and subscribe to Ice in the Face. I promise you'll listen for 2 minutes and you will be hooked, just like I am. So go ahead and give it a listen, and back to your regularly scheduled program.
You ready to jump?
I don't know. Jump where?
You know, all up in that pod stuff.
Wait, what's a pod stuff?
The Pod Stuff is a weekly podcast hosted by Perry and Lindsay Johnson.
Oh, those ones that host Hello Like WTF?
That's the ones. Pod Stuff is defined as anything to do with podcasting.
So like podcasts?
Yes.
Interviewing podcasters?
Yes.
What about reviewing host services?
I would assume.
Industry professionals?
Mm-hmm.
Equipment?
Yep, for sure.
What about more than that?
Oh, hell yeah, there's a lot more than that.
So you're telling me listeners can tune in and hear not only interviews with their favorite podcasts, but they can also hear from podcast experts? Well, where do I pay for all this?
What I'm telling you is all of this is for the low, low price of nothing. Just subscribe and download our weekly show on Podbean or at iTunes, and you will be there.
But wait, what if I am a listener who wants to make a recommendation? Or maybe I'm a podcaster, or I'm a podcast expert, podcast service, or equipment provider. How do I get involved?
Well, it's as easy as following at the Pod Stuff on Twitter and sending a direct message. Or, if Twitter's not your game, you can join the group on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/thepodstuff, or you can email thepodstuff@gmail.com. The Pod Stuff exists to passionately promote you and things that you love.
Man, that sounds awesome.
So let me ask you again. Are you ready to jump?
I'm totally in. You think everyone else will be?
I don't know. Why don't we ask them? Hey, listeners.
Are you ready to jump? All up in that pod stuff?
Recommended listening.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam.
Hi, friends of the podcast.
Hi, everybody.
Samantha.
Lisa.
How you doing?
I don't know. I saw your face like so many days this week.
Boy, we have had a lot of Sam and Lisa time.
I'm like, she's still here.
Still here. And isn't it funny that I think that about you? As I'm like thinking about my day today, and I'm like, God, a little more Sam.
Yep.
To get me through the week.
Mm-hmm.
But then, a few days off of you, off of each other. Right, then we get a break. Then we're just only texting friends. We're not in-person friends. We're not in-person friends. We're just texting friends.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
That's the light at the end of the tunnel, right? That's what it is. We go back to just texting.
We sound like we don't like each other.
But we do. But we do, right?
Yeah, everybody needs a little away time.
You know what? That's why it exists, right? It's why it exists.
All right. So, this week's recommended listening, I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam. I think I just discovered them on Twitter, doing their Twitter thing, and they're up there a lot. But I remember there was a point where I had a tweet that would go out on a fairly regular basis that would say, it was something to the amount of, leave me a review in iTunes and I'll be your best friend. And they responded. And so I kept up on my end of the work. But yeah, so the gist of the show, it's quite simple, really. And very much in the vein of the pizza podcaster. Lisa and Sam are best friends for what I can gather, like, ever. For, like, I think I heard 14 years thrown around at some point. I could be just making numbers up. I'm bad like that. But yeah, they've been friends for a long time. They've worked together in retail in various places for a long time. And if you couldn't tell by the accents, I think they even mentioned it. They're in Saskatoon in Canada. I believe Saskatoon is in Saskatchewan. Don't quote me on that. And if I get it wrong, I'm sure they're going to let me know. But they're in Canada. And sometimes it's really obvious, sometimes it's not. A lot of times because it's a reference to a thing or phrasing they'll use. I will say they're less Canadian than the Pod couple. But I think it's Lisa and Sam have the accents heavier. But the Pod couple have much more Canadian dialect, I would say. But really, they sit in their car, and they often reference the Lowe's parking lot. I think they're stealing the Lowe's Wi-Fi to record their podcast, sitting in the car. And I'm terrible because I can never, after the show starts, basically, and they have very distinctive voices, I can never remember which the fuck one is which, and I'm a terrible, awful, horrible person because I can never keep them straight. Which one's Lisa and which one's Sam within the context of the show. Either way, ultimately it doesn't matter because they're both hilarious, and were it not for the fact that it's two ladies, I would say they're constantly busting each other's balls. But they give each other crap, as you heard. They're sitting there like, I've seen you too many times today. I need to get away from you. But, I've lost count of how many times throat punch has been thrown about. But they're just funny. That's really it. It's like they sit in the car and record in the car. And they're silly and they're funny and they joke, but they'll pick a topic, unlike me. They'll have a thing and they'll be prepared. Like, oh, next week we're talking about, they did an entire thing and they regretted it. For all of December, it was all Christmas themed. Every week it was a different Christmas thing and a different Christmas thing, and they get around past New Year's and it's like, no more Christmas. This shit's over. We're never doing this shit again. Talking about Christmas nonstop, and it's so Christmas burnout, self-inflicted Christmas burnout. But, they'll talk about Elvis. They did an entire episode where like half the time they were talking about pickles. To which point and that was one of the first ones I heard, and they had, to the point where I had to message them, what the fuck is a yum yum pickle? And even when I Googled it, I got no information. Like, no clarification on what the fuck a yum yum pickle is. And all I could find that a yum yum is not a dill pickle. But I think in America, the closest you'd call it's just a sweet pickle. I have to assume. It's like I could find recipes for it, but this does not tell me where it falls in the, in the pickle flavor sphere. So yeah, weird for me. Anyway, but their obsession with Jan Arden and Oprah and camping out to try it, like on the side of the road to try and meet Jan Arden, and they're silly and they're funny, and I love when you have those shows where you've got the hosts that are really honest friends, and because that's where the best cheap shots come from, because there's some kind of jokes you can only make at your friend's expense. It's like, you're not going to insult a complete stranger the way you're going to insult your best friend, because you're insulting them from a place of love. It's just, they argue about who's older, and things of that sort. It was like, no, I'm older than you. No, it's like, I'm a millennial. You're not a millennial. Like, all my millennial friends are like this, and like, no. I did get a kick. They recently did an episode about reality TV. And I'm not going to lie, my mind was changed. But it was the back and forth and it's garbage TV versus no, it's teaching you, you are learning don't be like these fuckatards. And it's a warning. Things like that. But it was interesting to say the least. But it's always just fun to listen to them. I think that's it. I love the chemistry. I love when it's legitimate friends who love each other enough to say, I'm going to punch you in the throat. Just who will crack each other, they'll give each other shit about their weight. Meanwhile, admitting that they're both plus size and they're both older and, talk about, oh, I'm going through perimenopause. It's like they're push. I think, again, numbers flying through my head. 53, 49, 53. I think I'm getting them crossed with Dave Jackson, and you're all in that upper 40s to 50, low 50 range. But, and you can't hear it. You can't. And that's one of the weirdest things for me. It's like, I listen to them like, wait, what? You're 50? What? You don't sound 50. I don't know what 50 sounds like. My dad's 67. So, he doesn't sound 67. Mostly he doesn't look 67. And when I finally found actual pictures of them, because their album art is like Bitmoji versions of them, and Bitmoji look nothing like the people involved, I made one of myself just to see. It doesn't look, it kind of looks, if you had an animated version of me, that's closest you're going to get. But it's like, to a degree, if you hold the Bitmoji against them, you can see where they came from, but ultimately it doesn't look like them. But when I finally saw pictures of them, I'm like, I can't hear it. And there was a conversation in one of the podcast groups earlier in the week that was about that. Like, whenever you see somebody and you can't place their voice, there's like, that doesn't look right. You don't look like your voice. They very much don't look like their voice. But either way, they're still hilarious. It's still a great show. It's just and actually they were, and I only found, because I'm behind on She Podcast right now. I'm behind on Brand. I'm behind on so much stuff because a bunch of my stuff wasn't downloading. But I'm behind on, I'm behind on I Shake My Head right now. But they do kind of a similar, you could say, to my Jackass of the Week kind of thing. But they do, at the end of the show, they do their I Shake My Head kind of segment, where it's, what is it this week that just made you shake your head? And very frequently hits each other. They give each other shit. And it'll be like, you, at breakfast today. You're always late. Or, whatever. Shit like that. Why can't you just order this thing? Or they'll be bitching about the restaurant. Or, whatever. But it's kind of little mini rants or whatever that, just make you shake your head at a thing. And so, and again, it's all just silliness and fun. And so I get a kick out of it. And it's not a lot of thinking. It's just good old fun. And I just like those fun, real friends having just silly, fun, natural conversations. It's two friends sitting in a car. They happen to record the conversations. And that's it. And it's just funny. It's absolutely worth checking out. Again, if I didn't think so, I wouldn't be telling you about it. But yeah, you should absolutely check them out. They're hilarious. They've actually recently been featured in the 2 Pods a Day campaign. I think this last week. They were featured in the 2 Pods a Day campaign, which is pretty awesome. And again, She Podcast and Brand X have mentioned them recently. They're all over the place. And that's kind of why I was like, when I saw that everybody else was talking about them, I was like, hey, it's like they were already, in line to get a feature on the show. I was like, what better time when everybody else is already talking about them right now? I might as well jump on there, right? I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I'm bumping them up the list because everybody else is talking about them right now because they're hilarious. They really are. Yeah, so check them out. I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam at ismhead.podbean.com. But that's going to do it for me this week. Thank you again to Mike Jolitz for that interesting intro. Again, you can catch Mike Jolitz along with Chris the Mole Man and myself at surprisemeffers.weebly.com. And you can get the show notes for this show and all of the past episodes at odddadout.blogspot.com. Click one of the links right there at the top. Subscribe to the show so you never miss one. You don't have to go looking. It just pops right into your phone because you know you want to listen to my bullshit every week. Again, thank you for making it this far. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter at odddadout. Or if you're old school like that, email me odddadout@gmail.com. And if you're really nice, leave me a review in iTunes or Apple Podcast or Google Play or Stitcher or even on Facebook, whatever you like. Let me know what you think. Let me know what shows you think I should check out or feature in a future recommended listening segment. Always looking for those. And until next week, I'm Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out. Thank you and good night.